Cortisol has become a hot topic in wellness circles lately, especially on social media, where it is often blamed for everything from weight gain to fatigue. Spend a few minutes online and you might be convinced that your body is either depleted of cortisol or overflowing with it. Some influencers promote supplements or detoxes to reset cortisol levels, while others recommend testing to find out if your body is making too much or too little. But the truth is, most of what's trending about cortisol is not rooted in real science. Hi, I'm Valerie, a wellness nurse. I believe that no matter your age or current health status, that you have the power to take charge of your well-being and live a longer, healthier life. My goal is to share with you the knowledge and tools that will empower you to make that happen. In this video, I want to clear the air and give you a practical, science-backed understanding of cortisol. So what it is, why we need it, how it works in the body, and what really affects its balance. I will be talking about how stress, sleep, diet, and even gender and age can influence cortisol. I will also explore the differences between true medical conditions and the more common imbalances people experience in daily life. And finally, I will share some lifestyle strategies that actually can help. Cortisol is a hormone made by your adrenal glands, which sit right on top of your kidneys. While it is often framed as something negative, cortisol is actually essential for life. It helps to regulate your metabolism, it supports immune function, manages blood pressure, and plays a big role in your circadian rhythm, or your sleep-wake cycle. It is released in response to stress, but also in response to things like waking up, skipping a meal, or even exercising. It helps your body respond quickly and to recover. So the goal isn't to get rid of cortisol or to shut it down. The goal is to support your body's natural rhythm so cortisol rises and falls the way that it is supposed to. We cannot live without cortisol. Far from being bad, cortisol in normal amounts helps every major organ system in the body function properly. Under healthy conditions, cortisol follows a strong diurnal or day-night rhythm, as shown in this chart here. Cortisol levels start to surge just before you wake up, helping you feel alert. Within 30 minutes of waking, cortisol reaches its highest point of the day. This is the cortisol awakening response. This morning peak gives you the energy to start the day. After the morning high, cortisol gradually decreases through the afternoon. Small spikes can occur with meals, exercise, or acute stress, but overall, the trend is downward as the day goes on. By evening, and especially near bedtime, cortisol is at its lowest levels. Low cortisol at night allows melatonin, which is the sleep hormone, to rise, helping you to fall asleep. Then once you do fall asleep, cortisol stays low for most of the night, then starts to rise again toward early morning hours, preparing for the next cycle. This rhythmic cycle is normal and important. It's why a single random cortisol test does not tell the full story. Doctors will sometimes measure multiple samples in one day to see if your pattern is normal. A healthy pattern is high in the morning and low at night. An abnormal pattern, say low in the morning and flat throughout the day, can signal an issue with your stress response or adrenal function. We hear a lot about high cortisol or low cortisol, but what do those actually mean clinically? In everyday life, cortisol naturally fluctuates, but persistently extreme levels, either very high or very low, regardless of the time of day, can indicate specific medical conditions. Cushing's syndrome or disease is when the body makes too much cortisol over time. It can cause rapid weight gain, especially around the abdomen and face, thinning skin, and high blood pressure. Often it is caused by either tumors or by long-term use of high-dose corticosteroid medications. It can be called Cushing's disease or Cushing's syndrome, depending on its exact cause. Having slightly elevated cortisol from stress is not the same as having Cushing's. In cases of genuine Cushing's, doctors will do thorough testing and treatment. Treatment usually involves surgery, medication adjustments, or other interventions under medical supervision. On the other end of the spectrum is Addison's disease, where the body doesn't make enough cortisol. People with Addison's often feel profoundly fatigued, dizzy, or even have salt cravings. Both conditions require medical diagnosis and treatment. On the other end of the spectrum is Addison's disease, where the body doesn't make enough cortisol. People with Addison's often feel profoundly fatigued, dizzy, or even have salt cravings. Like Cushing's, true Addison's is uncommon or even rare. It requires medical diagnosis with tests and is treated with cortisol replacement medications. When wellness blogs warn about high cortisol or low cortisol, they are often not referring to these extreme medical disorders, but rather milder imbalances or stress-related changes. Diseases like Cushing's and Addison's are real, but they are uncommon. If your doctor suspects one of these, they will order proper tests. For most people, cortisol levels that are a bit too high or a bit too low usually relate to lifestyle and stress, not full-blown endocrine disease. If you are under chronic stress, your cortisol pattern may start to shift. Normally, after a stressful event passes, cortisol and adrenaline should drop and your body returns to baseline. This may not happen if stress is chronic. In modern life, many of us face constant stressors, which are the things that trigger stress. These are things like work pressures, family responsibilities, financial worries, or even just perpetual busyness. And most people do not have the right tools to respond to these stressors. So their body stays in essentially a state of fight or flight. Over time, this keeps the body in a low-grade state of alert, with the HPA axis, which stands for hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, staying on longer than it should. The HPA axis is essentially the communication network between your brain and adrenal glands, where cortisol is excreted. For some people, prolonged stress demands keep cortisol higher than normal throughout the day. You might still have a diurnal rhythm, but on the whole, the curve is raised. People often describe feeling tired but wired, so keyed up and anxious even when fatigued. They may have trouble sleeping, cravings for comfort foods, and increased belly fat over time, since cortisol can promote fat storage in the abdominal area. Research shows that a persistently flatter or higher cortisol curve is associated with health issues, things like fatigue, depression, anxiety, and weight gain. In essence, the stress response is stuck in on mode. After long periods of high stress, some individuals progress to a state of HPA axis dysregulation, where the normal cortisol rhythm flattens out. This is sometimes informally termed adrenal fatigue or burnout. Though, as we'll discuss in the myth section, the adrenals themselves aren't literally failing. In this pattern, cortisol output may become low across the entire day. Essentially, the stress system has been overtaxed and is now underreactive. It is important to note that this is a functional imbalance, not outright adrenal gland failure. Medical tests might still show cortisol in the normal range, or perhaps at the lower end or a flatter diurnal slope. Some chronic stress cases show an extra high cortisol spike in the morning, followed by a big crash in the afternoon. Others might have the opposite, difficulty mounting a morning peak, leading to grogginess on waking and feeling only half alive until that coffee kicks in. These patterns are currently being researched more. But what is clear is that mental stress, trauma, and even long-term lifestyle strain can alter your cortisol rhythm. For example, PTSD survivors often show lower cortisol levels over time, whereas someone under ongoing work stress might run higher levels. Our bodies adapt in different ways. So in summary, chronic stress doesn't usually make you run consistently sky-high cortisol 24/7. Instead, it tends to knock the rhythm off balance, sometimes too high, sometimes too low at the wrong time. This dysregulation can have real effects on well-being, even though it is not a disease like Cushing's or Addison's. Later on in this video, I will be talking about the good news in all of this, and that is that stress management and lifestyle changes can often recalibrate a disrupted cortisol cycle. But first, let's talk about gender. While cortisol functions similarly in men and women, there are a few differences worth noting. For one, women tend to have a slightly more pronounced cortisol awakening response during their reproductive years. Hormonal fluctuations like those during a menstrual cycle, pregnancy, or menopause can also influence cortisol patterns. During menopause, for example, some women experience higher cortisol levels, especially at night. This might contribute to sleep disturbances or increased anxiety during menopause. Age also plays a role. As we get older, cortisol levels tend to rise slightly, especially in the evening. The natural curve flattens out just a bit, meaning older adults may not get the same sharp peak in the morning or the same deep low at night. This can make it harder to fall asleep or stay asleep and may contribute to lower resilience overall. In summary, women and men have more similarities than differences in cortisol, but hormonal cycles in women add some complexity. And as we get older, our cortisol pattern shifts towards higher levels at night and less dramatic daily swing. Knowing these patterns can help you be more attuned to what your body needs at different stages of life, and why lifestyle habits become even more important with age. The way we live each day has a huge impact on cortisol regulation. Let's start with sleep. Cortisol and sleep are closely tied. When your sleep is disrupted, cortisol becomes disrupted. And when your cortisol is out of sync, it can disrupt your sleep. It's a two-way street. Lack of sleep, or even just inconsistent sleep, can lead to elevated evening cortisol levels and a dampened morning rise. That's why getting enough sleep and keeping a regular sleep schedule is one of the most powerful things you can do for hormonal balance. Nutrition also matters. Diets high in processed foods, sugar, and caffeine can spike cortisol or keep it elevated longer than necessary. On the other hand, whole foods like vegetables, berries, nuts, seeds, lean proteins, and healthy fats help support stable blood sugar and reduce inflammation, which supports healthy cortisol rhythm. Magnesium and vitamin C are especially helpful. Magnesium plays a role in calming the nervous system, and many people are unknowingly low in it. Vitamin C helps regulate cortisol production and supports adrenal function. Getting these through whole food, like citrus fruits, leafy greens, avocados, and pumpkin seeds, is ideal, but supplementation can be helpful if you are deficient. Exercise has a dual effect. In the short term, physical activity raises cortisol, and that's a good thing. It gives you energy and focus. But over time, regular movement helps your body become more efficient at handling stress. The key is finding the right balance. Overtraining, especially without enough recovery, can keep cortisol elevated. So while daily movement is encouraged, it is also important to build in rest and choose types of exercise that match your current energy level. Finally, stress management is essential. Cortisol is part of your stress response, so learning how to manage daily stress and developing tools to better respond to the stressors that life throws at us has a direct impact. Practices like deep breathing, meditation, progressive muscle relaxation, or even spending time in nature have been shown to reduce cortisol and support the nervous system. These don't have to be overcomplicated, just consistent. Because cortisol has become such a hot topic, there is a lot of confusion and misinformation out there, especially on social media. So let's take a moment to unpack some of the most common myths and set the record straight. First, the idea that cortisol is bad and needs to be eliminated. This could not be further from the truth. Cortisol is essential, as I've already discussed. It plays a role in metabolism, blood pressure, immune function, and your sleep-wake cycle. We don't want to get rid of cortisol or to completely detox it. We want it to follow its natural rhythm. Ideally, it is highest in the morning to help you wake up, and it gradually tapers off throughout the day. The issue is not that cortisol exists. It's when the pattern becomes disrupted due to chronic stress, poor sleep, or other lifestyle factors. Second is that belief that high cortisol is the reason behind every symptom, like fatigue, anxiety, weight gain, or poor sleep. While cortisol does influence many body systems, it is rarely the sole cause of those symptoms. Often what we are seeing is the result of multiple imbalances, so things like blood sugar instability, inflammation, poor recovery, or nervous system dysregulation. Blaming cortisol alone oversimplifies the issue and can distract from more meaningful solutions. And then there is the now widely used term, adrenal fatigue. Now, this one is tricky. A lot of people use adrenal fatigue to describe that deep, ongoing sense of burnout or exhaustion that doesn't improve with rest. And while those symptoms are real, the idea that the adrenal glands literally wear out and stop producing cortisol is not accurate. What is actually happening in most cases is a breakdown in communication between the brain and the adrenal glands, what we call HPA axis dysregulation. The system isn't broken, but it is out of sync. The good news is that it can often be restored with the right support. Another common myth is the idea of a cortisol detox. There is no such thing as a cortisol detox. Cortisol is a hormone that your body produces and regulates with precision. It is not something that builds up like a toxin and needs to be flushed out. The idea of a cortisol cleanse or an adrenal reset might sound appealing, but these programs are often little more than rebranded basic wellness advice wrapped in a marketing package. Many of them do include good recommendations like eating whole foods, getting rest, managing stress, but those same results can be achieved through lifestyle changes without the need for expensive supplements or rigid detox plans. And finally, the belief that everyone should test their cortisol. There is a growing trend of using at-home cortisol testing kits to find answers for fatigue, weight gain, or stress-related symptoms. But the issue with these is that cortisol naturally fluctuates throughout the day, and without proper timing, interpretation, and context, these tests can be misleading. For most people, especially those without symptoms of an adrenal disorder, testing cortisol is just not necessary. What matters more is how you are feeling, your daily patterns, and the lifestyle factors influencing your stress response. In a nutshell, don't fall for fear-based marketing around cortisol. It is easy to scapegoat this hormone for various woes, but often the narrative is oversimplified. Cortisol is not the enemy. Unmanaged stress is. And the solutions lie in evidence-based self-care, not quick fixes sold online. Now that we have talked about what cortisol is and what it's not, let's focus on what actually helps regulate it. You don't need exotic treatments or expensive tests. The best support for your cortisol rhythm comes from the everyday things you do and how consistently you do them. First and foremost is sleep. Good sleep is one of the most powerful ways to keep cortisol in balance. Ideally, you want to aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night. Going to bed and waking up at the same time each day helps train your internal rhythm, which supports the natural rise and fall of cortisol. Poor or inconsistent sleep can raise your evening cortisol and make it harder to feel alert in the morning. Simple steps like darkening your bedroom, limiting screens at night, and winding down with calming rituals can make a big difference. And if you have trouble sleeping, nutrients like magnesium may offer some gentle support. I have a couple videos on my channel about improving sleep quality. Please look out for those. Next is stress management, and I mean daily, not just in moments of crisis. Make practicing regular stress reduction techniques a daily habit, not just an afterthought. Simple breathing practices are a powerful tool. For example, try just 5 minutes of slow, intentional breathing. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system and can lower cortisol if done routinely. Mindfulness meditation is another well-researched practice. Studies show that it reduces anxiety and can lower cortisol over time. Even activities like yoga or listening to music, creative activities like knitting, crocheting, or even adult coloring books can induce a relaxation response. Choose whatever method sounds good to you so that you will stick with it. The key is consistency. 10 to 20 minutes daily of relaxation practice can meaningfully dial down chronic stress hormones. Movement is also important. Exercise does temporarily raise cortisol, and this is normal, but over time, it helps regulate the entire stress response. People who exercise regularly tend to have a healthier cortisol rhythm, higher in the morning and lower at night. Walking, stretching, strength training, or cardio all help, but balance is important. Overtraining or pushing too hard without recovery can keep cortisol elevated. Listen to your body and build in rest when needed. Nutrition also matters a lot. Your diet plays a huge role in how your body handles stress. Diets high in processed foods, sugar, and caffeine can spike cortisol or keep it elevated longer than necessary. On the other hand, whole foods like vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, lean proteins, and healthy fats help support stable blood sugar and reduce inflammation, which supports healthy cortisol rhythm. So include a variety of fiber-rich fruits and vegetables, especially those high in vitamin C and B vitamins like leafy greens, bell peppers, citrus, and berries. These support adrenal health and help your body manage oxidative stress. Make sure that you are getting adequate protein with each meal. Choose anti-inflammatory or low-inflammatory options like plant-based sources, legumes, tofu, fish, pasture-raised eggs, or lean meats to help balance blood sugar and support neurotransmitter production. Add healthy fats like avocados, nuts, seeds, olive oil, and omega-3 from foods like salmon and walnuts. Omega-3s in particular may help lower inflammation and reduce cortisol reactivity. When it comes to carbohydrates, choose slow-digesting options like oats, sweet potatoes, or quinoa. These keep energy steady and help avoid cortisol spikes that come from blood sugar crashes. And while the occasional treat is fine, try to limit added sugar, refined carbs like white flour and white rice, and excessive caffeine or alcohol. These can interfere with sleep, increase inflammation, and keep cortisol levels elevated at the wrong times, especially at night. Eating in a balanced, nutritious, consistent way tells your body that it is safe and supported. And that safety is what allows your cortisol to follow its natural, healthy rhythm. One area that is often overlooked is social support. Having people that you can talk to, laugh with, and lean on in tough time helps buffer the effects of stress. So that can be a friend or a partner, a community group, or a therapist. Staying connected can make a measurable difference in how your body handles stress. Emotional isolation increases cortisol, while connection helps regulate it. Now let's talk briefly about supplements. There are a lot of products out there marketed for adrenal support or cortisol balance. Some of them are helpful, and some are more hype than science. Adaptogens like ashwagandha have been shown in some studies to help reduce stress and modestly lower cortisol levels in people with chronic stress. Rhodiola, holy basil, and ginseng are other commonly used adaptogens, though the evidence does vary. Magnesium, especially in the form of glycinate, can support relaxation and sleep. Omega-3 supplements found in fish oil also have anti-inflammatory effects and may help moderate stress responses. That being said, supplements are not a replacement for lifestyle. No supplement can override a poor lifestyle. They can be supportive, but they work best when the foundation, so sleep, movement, nutrition, and sleep reduction, is already in place. And of course, not all supplements are appropriate for everyone, so it is always wise to speak with a healthcare provider before starting anything new. Natural does not always mean risk-free. Adaptogens can interact with medications or be inappropriate for certain conditions. Supplements are also not regulated as strictly as medications, so quality varies. Use reputable brands that do third-party testing. Lastly, know when to seek medical guidance. If you have made healthy lifestyle changes and are still dealing with unexplained fatigue, dizziness, weight changes, or other mood symptoms, it's worth checking in with a provider. Sometimes cortisol issues are part of a deeper hormonal imbalance, or symptoms might be linked to thyroid function, iron levels, or another underlying issue. Don't hesitate to advocate for yourself, especially if you feel something's off that lifestyle alone is not resolving. Cortisol is one of the most important hormones in your body. It helps you wake up, it helps you manage energy, respond to stress, and keep your systems running smoothly. But like everything in the body, it works best when it follows a natural rhythm. When that rhythm gets thrown off, so due to stress, poor sleep, inflammation, or other lifestyle factors, you may start to feel the effects. But the good news is that cortisol is highly responsive to daily habits. By focusing on consistent sleep, nourishing food, balanced movement, and regular stress relief, you can support your body in restoring balance. You don't need to fear cortisol. You just need to work with it. And with the right tools, that is entirely possible. If you are looking for a gentle, structured way to support your overall health, including your sleep, stress response, and daily habits, I invite you to check out my Thrive in 25 program. It is a 25-step journey where you add one small, sustainable change every week. It is not a quick fix, but it is effective. The habits you will build, like improving your sleep routine, reducing daily stress, and making simple dietary upgrades, are exactly the kinds of shifts that help bring your cortisol and your body back into balance. You can find the link with all the details in the video description. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. I share practical, science-backed wellness strategies to help you feel your best, especially in midlife and beyond. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, please take good care of yourself.